In this video, we're discussing 15 signs you've grown up with covert narcissistic parents. The subtle manipulation, the masked control, and how it shapes who you became and who you're still trying to be today. I'm Jerry Wise, and for over 45 years, I've helped hundreds of thousands of people heal and get their family out of them by practicing self differentiation, the process of becoming your true self, and releasing the false self you were trained to be in your own family of origin, so that you can finally experience clarity, peace, and lasting freedom. Sign number one: covert narcissistic parents made you constantly feel confused about what's real. Growing up, your covert narcissistic parents twisted what you saw, heard, or felt, so often denying what you remembered or gaslighting you into thinking your perceptions were wrong. Today, confusion still remains. You question your own memory, your feelings, whether you overreacted or simply misremembered. You stop trusting what you perceive. You can begin by learning to name the small truths out loud. This is what I saw. This is what I felt. And giving yourself permission to trust that without needing others to confirm it. Sign number two: covert narcissistic parents made you feel like you were always the problem. As a child, you were made to feel that no matter what happened, it was somehow your fault. Your covert narcissistic parents often blamed you for their unhappiness. Now, you may still carry the belief that you're the cause of problems in relationships. You keep convincing yourself that you are the problem. But it's time to recognize that you are not the problem, and you don't have to keep living out their story in your internal belief system. Them believing you were the problem does not make you the problem. Sign number three: covert narcissistic parents made you feel like you were never truly seen. Growing up, your parents might have been physically present but emotionally distant. You felt invisible, like nothing you did was ever good enough to truly be noticed. And in fact, if they notice anything, it's usually to criticize or something that you have failed or done wrong. In adulthood, you remain invisible to yourself. This keeps the pattern of feeling unnoticed or unappreciated in your relationships ongoing. You deserve to be seen, heard, and valued for who you are. And that begins with you becoming visible to you. If you cannot notice yourself and become visible to yourself, you'll never truly feel visible to others. Sign number four: covert narcissistic parents suddenly made you doubt your worth. As a child, you were showered with backhanded compliments or told love would come if only you behaved in a certain way. You learned that love and value were always conditional. Today, you constantly look for proof of your worth and validation, praise, or attachment. When that doesn't come, you default to thinking you must be unworthy. You can begin by affirming your own worth daily, writing or speaking acknowledgments of who you are apart from what you've done. I remember the day I finally decided, even with all my faults, and I have many, I was a good man. That was very powerful for me. It didn't mean I couldn't make mistakes or I couldn't do things that were wrong, but I knew that in my core, I was a good man. Sign number five: covert narcissistic parents played the victim to avoid taking responsibility. Growing up, your covert narcissistic parents turned every conflict into a crisis of their feelings, making you responsible for fixing things emotionally and relationally. Their victim story meant you absorb blame to keep the peace. As an adult, you still feel manipulated when someone plays the victim. You feel obliged to comfort or compensate or apologize, even when it's not your fault. Or you may just simply feel a lot of guilt if they feel like a victim. You can stop giving away your power by noticing when people shift blame and choosing not to carry their burden. Your responsibility stops where theirs begins. Sign number 6. Covert narcissistic parents made you feel responsible for their emotional state. Growing up, covert narcissistic parents expected you to anticipate their moods, soothe them, and avoid making them upset. You were trained to manage their emotional climate before your own. Today, you overextend to protect others' feelings. You silence your discomfort to maintain peace. You can shift this by first acknowledging your emotional limits and practicing saying, I feel this way, even if it causes discomfort. Sign number 7. Covert narcissistic parents invalidated your feelings. Growing up with covert narcissistic parents, when you expressed hurt or joy, their responses would be dismissive or you're too sensitive. Why are you so overly dramatic? Why can't you be like X, John, Bob, Mary? Your feelings were minimized or made wrong. As an adult, you find yourself censoring your emotions or believing if I feel it, I must be wrong. You can begin by giving voice to one feeling you've held back, journaling or speaking it to someone safe, acknowledging it to yourself that it matters. I remember the time when I was working with a family who had an alcoholic father in the family dynamic. And I remember the adult daughter who was probably in her 30s, late 30s. And I remember her finally recognizing, there's something I need to tell you. And I was the family counselor at the time. And she said, I really do believe dad is an alcoholic. She could never voice that, express that, and ought never feel that in the family. And it was so relieving for her to actually say what she truly believed. And of course, obviously, it was already obvious her dad was an out of control drinker, but nobody in the family could acknowledge that or have any feelings about that because everyone was in denial and we're supposed to be in denial. The same can be true about having a narcissistic parent. And I've had many adult children of narcissists come to me and say, I think my parent was a narcissist. And they're just so surprised and also relieved. They're not trying to diagnose the parent. They're just saying they just fit all these categories. And I've always felt they did, is what they would say, but I could never own that. Sign number 8. Covert narcissistic parents were emotionally distant or neglectful. As a child, your parents' attention was conditional, only when you performed or seemed useful. Most of the time, you were left alone with what hurt or whatever you were wondering about. No nurturing, no heart listening. Now you feel disconnected in relationships. When others are there, part of you expects them to withdraw emotionally. You can shift this by seeking healthy relationships that show up consistently. People who check in, who listen and respect your real self, and practice being emotionally present with yourself. Sign number 9. Covert narcissistic parents made you feel guilty for wanting your own needs met. Growing up, whenever you asked for something emotional, physical, discomfort, maybe even medical care, or any number of things, new shoes for school, whatever, your covert narcissistic parents framed it as selfish or unfair. This helped you believe your needs were clearly a burden. Even now, when you think about saying, I need this, you hear the guilt in your body. You might avoid asking or give up parts of yourself. You can train yourself to make small requests first, safe ones, and accept that needing is a part of being alive. Sign number 10. Covert narcissistic parents used passive aggressive behavior to control you. As a child, your parents never addressed issues directly. They used sarcasm, silent treatment, indirect hints. You stayed alert, guessing what was wrong, always tiptoeing around emotional landmines. Now and today, you dread unclear communication. You feel anxious in situations where people infer rather than speak plainly. You can stop being held hostage by silence, by asking clarifying questions, demanding what needs fixing, rather than assuming what's causing the tension. Sign number 11. Covert narcissistic parents taught you to avoid conflict. Growing up, conflict meant backlash. You were blamed, dismissed, punished, so you learned to swallow anger, hide frustration, and pretend all was fine to preserve safety. Today, you continue to avoid confrontation, even when things go wrong. You feel stuck, resentful, unheard. You can begin by practicing small confrontations where you gently speak what you actually feel. Say, that kind of hurt me. Or, I kind of disagree with that. And see how that lands. And it's okay to fudge around with it because you're not used to being clear about it and declaring self. I had to nudge my way into it, even to say, that kind of felt hurtful. Even though it's kind of fudgy and kind of vague, it's a whole lot more about expressing myself than I did before, which I would have never even said anything. Sign number 12. Covert narcissistic parents made you feel like you were always walking on eggshells. As a child, you had to watch your tone, your words, your behavior. Any misstep meant withdrawal, anger, or coldness. You never knew which version of your covert narcissistic parent you were going to get. In your adult life, relationships feel unpredictable. You feel tense, monitoring what you say so others won't react. You can stop that by living by curiosity, noticing when you feel tense, naming it out loud, and choosing safety over silence. Sign number 13. Covert narcissistic parents downplayed or ignored your achievements. Growing up, your covert narcissistic parents overshadowed your wins, deflected praise, or made your success about themselves or someone else. You learn not to expect acknowledgement and to shrink your pride before it could be taken away. Now you struggle to celebrate your success. You dismiss praise or feel like you don't deserve it. You can begin by noticing one thing you accomplished today. Write it down, say it out loud, and let yourself feel proud of it. Sign number 14. Covert narcissistic parents belittled your needs. You were taught as a child that your needs, emotional, physical, and mental, were way too much. Asking felt like burdening or betraying them or being ungrateful. Today, you silence what you need, compromise too much, apologize for asking. You can begin to shift this by practicing small acts of self advocacy, asking for rest, for help, for boundaries, and holding firm even if guilt shows up. Sign number 15. Covert narcissistic parents emotionally manipulated you and masked it as care. As a child, manipulation was dressed as care or sacrifices. You should be grateful. I know you were sick, but I brought you chicken soup. The child needs to be ever indebted to them for that. I did this for you so that you would comply, thinking love or generosity, not control. Now, if you feel used, resentful, trapped in emotional debt, you can stop repeating that pattern by recognizing when care asks more than you can give, setting limits, and honoring times when loyalty asks you to give yourself up. As adult children of narcissistic parents, it's important to sort out what we thought was normal was not normal. Caring can be manipulation. Compliments can be love bombing. Gifts can be the beginning of indebtedness, emotionally or mentally. Them just being nice to us is seen as heroic or so loving because they are so often not that way. And not remembering we all should be nice, but we lower the bar or raise the bar. Actually, we raise the bar for the narcissistic parent that they only have to reach this far, or lower the bar. I'm help me with the bar. If you're ready to finally break free and start living with clarity, peace, and a grounded connection to your true self, then join the Road to Self program. Many who've joined say it was the missing piece in their healing journey, the step that finally helped them get their family out of them and stand strong as their true self. If you're not sure if the Road to Self program is for you yet, then start with my free 84-minute self-differentiation training, Building the Self You Are Never Allowed to Have. Over 30,000 people have joined the free training as their first step. Click the links in the description below to get started. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss a new video. I want to thank you for watching. Have a great day and be wise.